Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button, as this really helps to support the show. If you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects, real-life inspirational stories, self-improvement, and much more. On today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Claudia Edge, who in 1984, during the birth of her fifth child, had a near-death experience. She has spent the last 37 years writing and recalling that event through her dream experiences of the other side with what Claudia calls Spirit School. Claudia Edge, welcome to the show.
I sure appreciate it. This is a great opportunity, so
Well,
thank you.
I know you've not been feeling very well, and so I appreciate you pushing yourself to do this.
Terrific. It's been a week where it's been up and down. Am I going to be able to go? So if I still sound a little nasally, just
Right.
keep going.
Well, we were just saying off air there, where you were just saying to me, just how much you've pushed yourself in this work. Would you? Well, it's not even work, is it? It's a joy for you to get this message out there, isn't it, of what you went through in your near-death experience.
Absolute passion. It's it's in front of me all the time. It's work is an earth word, that we use. There just aren't the proper words, but yeah, it is a passion, and I get excited about it. This is my topic. This is my subject.
And you've done two books on the subject, which we're linking in the description below. Because some people comment sometimes on these videos saying, where's the link? Where's that? Well, it's if you go below to the description below, all of Claudia's books and links to her website and everything else are in the description below. But your website for the podcast is
ClaudiaEdge.com.
ClaudiaEdge.com. Wonderful. Well, that's coming up on the screen as we speak. What would you say, Claudia, is the most important message of your work?
Boy, it's a wide open field, but what comes first to me is that trying to show all of us out there how magnificent we really are. We are magnificent souls. We are pieces of God. We're not a mistake. We're not a happenstance. There's a purpose to us and for our being here. And so I guess I would talk to your audience and say, you're worth it. You're special. You're wonderful. That's a pretty good message.
Thank you. And in this interview as well, and in your books as well, when you had your first near-death experience, your only near-death experience, which we'll get into. I keep saying that, don't I? I said that off air as well. Your first. Is there another one coming?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
the big one, the
yeah.
one where I get to stay.
Oh, actually, you just saying that. I mean, having the near-death experience and having touched that place where we come from and we go back to, and I call it home. Others call it heaven, or the spirit world. It doesn't make you not want to have this experience, though, of being here, does it?
You know, um, it is so it is home, and it's like going back home, and you're comfortable there. You have all of your, family and friends that, because you have more family and friends than you remember having here. You're surrounded by love, and the feeling is awesome. And why go back? This is more like a dream, and that is like going home.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you as well, right, is that it hasn't wanted you. You haven't said to yourself, you know what, some days I'd rather be there much more than here. What I'm saying to you is this experience of being here is so important, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a purpose for our being here. And part of it is in service to Source. We are all a piece of God. And I'm jumping, right into the heavy stuff here. So, Kevin, let's go. Let's do it. Um, that we are pieces of God, and God is everything, all knowing, the I am everything. I don't want to distract from that, but God would love and knows everything except for the physical. How does one that is the air and and a bit of everything, or is everything except for our humanness, what was created for us to experience a physical form, and for that information of our experience to be brought back to source is an absolute service. We're God's foot soldiers, basically. We were gifted a unique oneness, our own individual personage. We were gifted free will to do, and and we get to enjoy this wonderful planet that was made from love from God, for us to be able to come here and experience, and then bring that back.
What do you think we're coming here for, in the sense that, if there was one or a couple of things that you could say on that? I mean, and it's only your perception of it from what you got to experience. It may be even a greater understanding than what we could ever put into any books, or whatever has been put into any books by anyone's experience, right? But if you could just sum it up, I mean, what is some of the main points of being here, do you think, and having this experience?
Well, because everything is love, basically. I mean, let's try and understand love. Let's understand, as we are here in the physical, what brings someone to a point of jealousy or hatred, or stealing from another, or all kinds of discourse. What what uh, what events lead up to that type of personality? It's an important experience, even in those type situations, to fulfill the experience for God. On the other hand, we have an opportunity to look at to basically walk in another man's shoes and get a 360-degree view of their life, by next time coming in someone that is maybe more pleasant, or maybe is not scrapping for money as much, or whatever. When you get to walk in all of those different particular shoes, and look at that experience from a totality, basically, on all sides, it's worth it, to be able to experience that, and learn more about a universal love.
Yeah, yep. And some of us can be going through very tough times, as you say, all this wonderful stuff, right?
Exactly.
And it can be
Exactly.
very, very painful. And you think, why, if I'm in total bliss, wherever I've come from, would I want to
Why the
experience
heck
this
would I do
disconnection,
this?
and having to double guess all the time? Is it really real? Is there really anything? And we live in hope that there's something more sometimes in the darkest times that we're experiencing. Obviously, on the joyous times, maybe we're not thinking about that. We're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to leave this theme park. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I even experienced that. I remember, it was basically my time to go, and it was an introduction, or maybe more of a part of the lesson of reincarnation for me. But I was being talked into coming back, and it was kind of like, oh man, Earth life is hard. It really, I mean, we come here purposely. Okay, I sign up, whatnot, and go through this veil of forgetfulness. We have no recollection of who we are, or what is waiting for us. And we feel sometimes so alone, so depressed, so hurt. It's like, why would we put ourselves through that if we had any idea how magnificent we really are? But as I was sitting on a bench, clouds, I mean, and I was sitting there with my guide, slash father, and that's a story in the book. But and I just said, I just don't want to. I'm just not good at it. And it was one of the things that he said to me was, and I don't quite understand the word graduate, because it's our experience here isn't necessarily tests or lessons. I don't want to get into that religious connotation of our purpose. I like the word experience much better. Um, Not just personally, it references what my knowing is experience rather than test. But I did, in this dream of being in spirit school, see, um, it was represented that there were people taking actual tests, and I said, "Oh, they're doing really good, and I'm just not that good at it. I don't want to go." And my father said, "What if I go with you this time? What if I make sure you graduate this time?" And I thought about it. I knew I was losing the war, when your parents getting in there and okay. But I held up this bag, this clear bag, and it was just full of humanness. And we're talking the nitty gritty stuff, urine and phlegm and blood and vessels. And it was a horrible looking bag of ick. And I just said, "This is being human. I don't want to do that. It's icky." But he did talk me into it. And so I wanted to express that, there are choices. And one of the big stories that I wanted to tell you, as far as why we do it, basically, and the choices that we have, are I had a spirit school, and we're jumping into stuff where I even told your audience what my spirit school is. But when I dream, it comes with a billboard, basically, that will say, tonight's lesson is such and such. So I have a clear um, memory of it, and will write that as soon as I wake. Excuse me. And I had a dream of being in spirit school, and being able to go to the room of choices. The room of choices I accompanied with my now son named Jesse. Of the 5 children, he's probably the most spiritual, and we can get deep, we can talk. And so I was I was already slated to play the part of his mother, which meant that I got to go in this room of choices, because I was going to be coming early to kind of set the stage for bringing him into the world. It was already chosen. We were on level, even playing field on the other side. We were, friends or soul group or whatever it was, but we were absolutely equal there. And it's like, okay, you're going to be the mom. And because he had choices in his, basically, a genetic makeup, picking 3 different father types, so to speak, what that genetic makeup would mean to him, what the body type would sort of look like. We're not interested in looks or height or anything like that. It's not an ego driven kind of thing as we're picking out a body. What we are looking for is, why are we coming down? What experience do we want to have? And which body, which set of circumstances, country, state, parents, neighborhood, high school, all of those things, excuse me, cold. All of those things are important for the end game of your why you're coming this time. And so I accompanied him, and there we were looking down, and it was represented, again, to your listeners. My stories come in the form of a metaphor or a parable, so that I can remember it, so I can easily retell the story. I'm a storyteller. This is what comes in my dreams. They're not teacher in front of me, on the blackboard, this is our lesson.
And can I just say something here? I'm so sorry to butt in. I should just say as well, right, that we are going to get into your 1984 near-death experience, but when you had that experience, you had no recollection of actually much of what really took place back then. And what you're describing now is what you're describing now. Obviously, it's a dream you had, and it's the recall of what you don't remember.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
and roughly when did this recall of this particular one take place? With the room of choices.
Well, I died in 1984. I bled to death, and then these type of dreams and everything started coming up about in about the year 2000. Um, yeah, it's only been maybe 15 years, something like that.
Thank you. So what we'll do then is we just continue where you were roughly taking the story there, because I think the room of choices sounds fascinating. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
carry on, please.
So we were looking down at three basically sheets, like a gurney with a sheet over, completely covering, knowing that it was a representation of a body. Each on top of the sheets was a large medallion, and it had a stone in it. And each there was a green stone, a red stone, and a black stone. And within those stones, they would light up, and you could see kind of an idea of what this body was going to look like. You could see it walk or be in a situation, kind of could hear what it talked like and whatnot. Now it was a as good of a guesstimate as it was going to be. It wasn't a perfect, but it was, these are the two gene pools mixed together. This is probably what you're going to get, kind of thing. We're going to mix this one up, and this body is this mixture. So we looked at the red medallion, and then the green medallion, and then the black medallion lit up, and we saw the same thing. We were looking for what adversities this body would have, and what chances of getting basically through the life with exactly what they had set out to do. And the last thing I remember as we were making this choice was he was choosing the black medallion. And my thought was, oh boy, this is going to be quite a ride. But also, I was filled with absolute pride in how he was picking one of the hard rides, you know, and he has shown that throughout his entire life. He's a scrapper. He works really hard. He appreciates everything he has. He's a good guy. But I'm sure that if he might have picked one of the other ones, he might have had a little softer ride. But heck, if you're coming here into the hard zone of Earth, it's kind of like, let's get in, let's slide in, let's get her done, and let's get back home. And we're kind of hailed for our bravery over there too. It You're as kind of a rock star for coming to this realm. It's a tough one. I was just gonna say, but we have a chance to advance quicker here. There are all kinds of other realms to visit and learn and grow from. But, if you want, kind of the fast track is Earth.
Yeah, because initially I was asking, how to cope with, with some of the pain that we have to go through here, which we all have to go through different pain of whatever it is, right, in the moment, or whatever we're going through. And
Right.
sometimes, I mean, how was having the experience that you've had helped you cope with issues that you've had to go through?
It's funny. It's helped me as being a mother of five children, and I've got 10 grandchildren and everything. Or when funny story, my husband was having problems with his truck. Every time he pulled this truck out, he was trying to pull a trailer on it. I don't know, something happened. It would bump. He ended up causing some damage to the trailer. He was having a heck of a day. And one of the things that he said was, what do I need to learn from this situation? What am I not getting? And it's like, when you're continually bumping into a wall, or whatever it is, it's like, start watching out for the wall, or maybe shut the door behind, just simple things. But it's like, what am I not getting? If I'm going through this, there's a reason that I'm going through this. And so if you can step out of yourself just enough where it's like, I'm feeling picked on here, and you can say it out loud. It's like, help me out. I'm feeling picked on here. It's like, and that was one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is, how you talk to God or whatnot. I grew up in a religious situation. right? It's like I went to Sunday school and everything. And when you learn to pray and you use, thee and thou and all of these words that are not in our modern vernacular, right? It's so foreign. And I realized that it was really keeping me from actually talking and having a relationship with God. It was like every time I used thee or thou or yeah, whatnot, it felt like it was building another brick in the wall, basically, between us. And I don't know if that's purposeful or if it's just such a habit from old times, whatever, biblical, I don't know. But man, get rid of that. It's like I I used to travel before I was a realtor, and we talked about my being a realtor for 20 years. But before that, I was an eyewear salesman. I was on the road a lot, seeing different optometrists in different states and towns, in a different motel room every night. It was just when I was on the road, and I was out there alone, a woman alone on the road. And I knew that I just felt I was being protected. And I used to just talk to, I said, I know there's a guide. I'm here and there's a guide. So I know I must have one. I just started talking to mine. It's like, I'd really like a relationship with you. And it really, it grew into that with prayer as well, where it's like, kind of like, hey, Heavenly Father, or hey, God, or whatever you use. And I don't mean it in a disparaging or undervaluing my love for and I'll use the word Heavenly Father because it's comfortable. It's what I grew up with as a kid. It's my highest form of um, adulation. It's like that's what I call it's intimate to me. And I would say, whatever feels intimate to you, but to start that communication, but don't make it formal. Talk to them like they're friends because they are. They're there to help us.
Well, would you say your dad is your guide right now still?
It's my it's such a good question, and I don't have an answer for that time in the sky on the bench. He was serving as a teacher and a slash dad because I was relating to him as both.
Interesting. But okay, so you're on your own in the car, right? You're driving along. You're still
Mhm.
acknowledging that dad's there. You've kept that relationship with him, haven't you?
It wasn't with my dad. That was long early as I just started to question and kind of look into. This was after my near-death experience, but I had pushed my experience so far down. It was when I was just barely beginning to explore and go, okay, I'm going to let a little of you in. I'm going to let a little of this experience that I've pushed down for 30 years. I'm going to let a little of it bubble up. And so I started just kind of talking to my spirit guide without,
Okay, so it wasn't your dad, but when you are right now on your own, would you acknowledge that there's something else in the room with you, that there's a spirit guides or guides with you
it's like not even a room thing. It's just kind of around me, but
around you? Yeah.
yeah,
But my point,
yeah,
but you do acknowledge them that there's something else. Do you speak? That's what I'm saying. Do you say, hey, come on, we've got to do this job now, or we're going to be
yeah,
okay, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? We'll get
yeah.
we'll get to where we need
It's
to get
kind of
to.
like, come on, fellas, I'm gonna go talk to Kevin. It's like, help me out. Don't leave me out on a cliff, okay? It's like, come be with me, and
Well, how with anyone that's passed around you, how do you deal with that? I mean, obviously knowing that you know of this reality that's has always been there and will be there when you go back home. Is it easier or is it still painful when you lose people?
oh, yeah, and that's and I was a hospice volunteer for 5 years in Colorado Springs. I I'll tell you, when as a little kid, my mother was in a family with 9 brothers and sisters. She was second to youngest, and so it seemed like every 6 months there was a funeral, and I was little. I wasn't afraid. I would go to the funeral with them. And I would see people crying, and I would go up and say, they're okay. They're probably in the room with us right now. I'm this little kid, trying to comfort these people. And my grandmother heard me talking one time and said, "Where are you getting this stuff?" And I said, "Am I wrong, Grandma?" And she says, "Well, no, but where are you getting this stuff?" It's like you're too little to know this stuff. And I think I came in so confident that there was another side. And then at 14, I was trying to write a book about the afterlife. Um, Sorry, you look like you have a question.
I do, and I want to get to that point where you're just about talking about that book as well. Just one more thing before we get to that point. And the problem we've got here, right? This is almost a 3-part, 5-part interview, right?
Oh, wow.
There's so much to your story, and we've got such a small amount of time to tell this fascinating and fantastic information that you've got. And if people want to find out more, they're obviously you've put all this in your books, and you've really gone to town, giving so much away, in the books of information that you've recorded and stuff. I think the books are really fantastic. There's two of them, which Gifts from the Edge, Stories from the Other Side, and Gifts from the Edge, Volume 2, Lessons from the Other Side. They're just coming up on the screen now. Just going back to the room of choices just very quickly as well, right?
Okay.
Do you think there's free will on this journey, complete free will as well, but
Absolutely.
at the same time, in the room of choices, are you choosing bigger things? Like, if someone's got some really big things in their life plan, like what we may see as, quite destructive, whatever that may be, right? It would still have, they would have chosen that in the room of choices. But then are you saying as well, when you come down here, it's free will whether it happens or not?
Exactly, exactly. There may be something that you have promised to explore, that may not be on the nice, be really a horrible person. It's like, what now? Why would I pick that? Well, I'm offering service to the God that gave me life, that created me. I'm I'm going to offer that service. And if it's something that, and generally there is a kind of volunteer type situation too, and you're really guided. Best people to fit those particular jobs are really, it, it's advanced thinking here.
It is. It's almost like that. This God, or this all that is just really enjoys holographic play dates. Do you know what I mean? But
I love
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. But probably there's something much bigger that we can't even understand at this level that's going on. Maybe it's
Mhm.
it's trying to know itself.
Absolutely. Because, where I think that's perfect to know itself better. I mean, there's a capability within itself to do that type of thing. And what brings one to that capability? What type of childhood, genetics, what is it that creates that? I'm sure that there is a huge curiosity in that.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into the work of some of these top scientists that talk about the idea of the virtual reality?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, what if, and I'm not saying this is, but what if we are in some sort of virtual reality, and what you've touched is the essence of that, but it's not what even we think it is. It's what we call near-death experience is just the ability to tap in, that you've gone into a place where it's just a bit more open to what maybe this may be, but it's we're terming it as what it is, but actually maybe it isn't that. And I know that's a
That
crazy question.
not exact that it's not we're not actually returning. We're kind of in a well, and that's where I was, when I died, just quickly, I bled out. It was very fast, and I had 2 minutes of life to live, and they basically held me down and cut my baby out. Arms, legs down, no anesthesia, nothing. So it was gruesome, and I was out of there, and I ended up in a place of perfection that was absolute black. There was nothing I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I don't know if I had a hand. I couldn't see anything.
But you were aware of your awareness.
Aware of my awareness. Nothing had changed. I was who I was. I was me. I'm still me, in that place. And I think you nailed it. I think it is kind of a holding pattern. I think our near death experience is what we get to visualize in that experience is like the holodeck, like the holographic room, so to speak. And it's whatever that particular soul needs for a boost, a helping hand, being shown something, just the comfort of the trauma. The trauma I went through, I think, ended me in just an absolute blackness. Just hold me after that.
And okay, so in your near death experience in 1984, on your with having giving birth to your fifth child, you knew intuitively that something was wrong. The nurses weren't too sure, but you knew that there
Right,
was. You bled out, like you say, the most horrendous type of open surgery that you had to have take place in that time as well, very quickly, so that they could save the baby. But a lot of blood was lost from yourself.
yeah,
You were traveling in the corridors of that hospital. You got to see people watching some TV. You got to see your husband filling out the forms because he wasn't even in the room with you when
right.
it took place, right? And how long was you in that? Well, how long do you think that you were in that space of awareness but nothingness? But when now many years looking back at this with all these dreams recall, you could have been there for what we may have termed as many years.
It felt like it could have been eons. There was absolutely no time in this place, and I could have stayed there for eons and been absolutely happy to be there. There was no, you know,
But
get
in
tired.
reality, in the reality down here, you
It
when
was
it was
maybe 5 minutes,
5 minutes.
something. I honestly don't know. I do know that I was dead. I do know that I was dead because they were telling me, "When you died, did you see anyone? Did you," it wasn't like it well, I didn't have anesthesia, so it wasn't even an anesthesia or a
Isn't that
type.
interesting that back then they were asking those questions? So how many other people in that local hospital, have gone near death or touched death and come back to say, hey, oh my God, there's no death. Don't be scared. Put me back under, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was a teaching hospital, and I think they were quite progressive because the 3rd book that I'm working on right now has a lot to do with the gap in care with the military, and, these strong men that have these experiences on the battlefield or in helicopter crashes and whatnot, and then they're not supposed to talk about this woo-woo kind of stuff without some kind of retaliation. And it is a gap in care. So for me to be able to express it right away was really a gift, but I didn't have the words to talk about it.
Oh, exactly. So, okay, your recovery, I'm guessing, there was a time to recover because obviously, like I said, there was a lot of blood lost. You weren't just, released. I mean, you probably stayed there a while at the hospital. But when was it when you kind of said to yourself, "Oh my God, what happened there?"
Um, it was early on when they were asking those questions and I didn't have an answer and my mother came into the room. And I mean, I knew that they call it morgue gray, like your fingernails, everything is you just gray down. The heart isn't pumping anymore. There's no blood to pump. And so you turn this really awful ghoulish color. And when I did see her, when I was awake enough to talk to her, she was asking me if I saw dad. My dad died when I was 16, and I it was then I realized I didn't see my dad. How could that have been a death experience? Why didn't my dad, that I missed so much, reach his hand down and pull me into the afterlife? Why didn't I see my dad? And it gave me pause for shame in a way. Like, you read all these wonderful near death experiences, and mine was darkness and not my dad. It was like, okay, what's wrong with me? How I must not be very special, kind of thing. Excuse me.
It's funny. I know that darkness you're talking about. I think I've had that experience before. Do you know that? I think I've been there, and it's weird because when I was reading your notes, I was like, no one's ever talked about this on the show, but I actually think
Mm,
I've experienced that. It jogged back a few memories. It really did. It did.
I think
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place of, and maybe people go there in their dreams and that as well. Maybe you don't, sometimes I just don't think you have to die to have a spiritual experience, you know? Mm, I don't know.
No, absolutely not. No, it's like how much of a two by four do you need over your head to get the message, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why? Obviously, there was a long time between '84 to when in the
Mhm.
early 2000s you started to have the dream recall, which was actually, as you see now, the recall of what you actually went to experience on that time on the other side. Why do you think that big distance why did you shelve it in a sense, or do you think you did?
I was kind of I was in a religion that I wasn't quite there. Had all of these small children. I went through a divorce and remarriage, and I started having children when I was 20 years old, and it's like for the whole year of my 20s I was pregnant. It was kind of like, it took me a while to figure out who I was, and then when I started to question and go, "How come I'm so different than all these other people?" And that's when we were talking earlier about asking. I started praying again, but I wasn't praying like on my knees and formal stuff. I would pray in my car, and to even call it prayer is a weird to me now because it feels religious. To even say the word feels religious, and I don't like it.
Well, can I ask you? Let's just go back
I
to that divorce.
Okay.
Was that at a point where you know you just didn't want to be in? There was a religious sort of context there that you were sort of moving away from as well, and it was just two souls that had come to the end of a contract. Would you say?
I believe so. I believe we were contracted to bring these kids into the world, and it took us a long time to be friends, but it was important for me to be friends. Cared about him. I mean, we were together for 19 years and brought 5 beautiful children in the world, but we both knew we just weren't meant to be together. But for whatever reason, I'll blame it on Jesse. He wanted that body. I don't know. But, I think we did the best for each other, and we're both in good situations now.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And your current, well, actually, your kids. Let's just go there for a second. Obviously, they're all growing up now, but how have they taken the messages that you're putting out there and the work that you're doing?
Most of them 'em don't even talk about it, kinda like, "Okay, mom, whatever." I try not to talk about it too much with them. Um, I've given them books for Christmas, but most of them, I don't think any of them other than Jesse has read it. Eric maybe a little bit, and my kids see me on YouTubes. Every now and again, they'll go, "Mom, you're on a YouTube," or, "Grandma, you're on a YouTube," or something, and it's like, but it's okay. In fact, I envisioned before we started talking, it's like, let me give something within this speak, right? That there's someone out there that just needs to hear that one thing. And it, and so I'm speaking to that one person, or that it might mean something to, and my children will find what they need, whether it's from me or on their own,
I,
or
I I
from
get it.
someone
I
else.
get it. That relationship with your kids is the same. Maybe even with my relationship with some of my old friends. They just do not understand who I am. They don't get that I've
Yeah,
gone down this path. This is uh something that it was looked to. That if it was agreed upon that maybe, oh, it's cool what you do, that would feel weird to them to say that. Do you know what I mean? Where
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what, and this is representative of where we're at right now. But I think what's so important about the work that you're doing is it's empowering people to know that there's something much more about this reality than they could have ever dreamed possible, and who they could be or can be or are. They are, no matter where they are in their life, of whatever they've achieved, it's still magnificent, even if they're comparing themselves to others. It's so important, all the experiences that we take with us when we do cross over. We think of it being unimportant. At this level, it's so important.
It's so, and it may be, and I was going to look up years ago, there was a book, Embraced by the Light, Betty Eady. Um, and I believe it's her book, and I hope I'm quoting it right because it's been a long time ago. But she was describing, she used the word bum on the corner, and she was shown this guy that was peddling, for alcohol and was asking for coin and whatnot. And that was his purpose. And when she saw in this world, when she saw who he was on the other side, this magnificent soul, and this is what he chose, but he did it for a friend on the other side, one of his best eternal friends or whatever, that was going through the experience of being a wealthy lawyer. And this lawyer would walk to lunch every day. He would have to pass by this guy, begging for money and just looking disheveled and feeling above him in a way. It was a way of waking him up to help others. After he had seen him for so many years, he made a decision to start doing something about it and start doing something, for the homeless and whatnot. And that was she was shown his purpose. And so when you look at someone and go, wow, what a mess, or what a mess they've made of their life, maybe they're doing it as an example for you. It's like, I don't want to go there. And they've taken on this huge toll of being an addict or something else to help everyone else in the family.
And they also may be doing their best to get the hell out of it, even though it may not seem the opposite, that they're stuck in it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a deeper part than that is trying to get out of it and fix it, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever addiction it may be. Yeah, but does that it doesn't forgiveness, how important is forgiveness?
Forgiveness is a weight on. It's like, it's when you have a problem with someone, you've heard it, as we were talking, as vibration and frequency. The lighter we are and the more we can rise. And when you've got something heavy like a discord with someone, it's not hurting them, it's hurting yourself. It's holding you back from spiritual advancement. And that, I don't know how much time we have left, but that brings up a really important story for me, because there was a woman absolutely betrayed me so deeply that I just couldn't get over it. I mean, she pretended to be a friend. She was going after my husband, all of those worldly stuff. And it was really bad. And when I was shown that I needed to do some forgiveness work, and I went into, kind of made it like a little ceremony, and I would think about the person and think about anything that I had done, and anyway, I would do that before I would go to sleep. And I was able to go through that for weeks until I felt like I'd gone through. My list wasn't horrible. I'm not a bad person, but there are things in your life that you would like to change, and it's sure easier to change here than it is on the other side. But I couldn't do it for this woman. And I started having dreams of, bubbly cauldrons and everything. All it was a metaphor. It was not, that's not what happens, but it was like, this is where you are staying mixed up in this mire of this hatred of this person. Yeah, you were a victim. Yeah, she betrayed you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But get over it. And I really had to work on forgiving this person. And I did have a dream of her this night that, I was trying to it was kind of like a Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby kind of situation, and I was trying to scrape her off, like, all of the everything that she had done, and I ended up with this ball of tar, this black, sticky, awful ball of tar, and I didn't know what to do with it. I had kinda cleansed myself with it, but it was sticky and awful. If I set it down, it was gonna get on the chair or the bed linens or whatever, and this face came in. It was her face. It was kind of an animated face. It came into vision, and she opened her mouth, and I tossed that ball of tar into her mouth, and she closed it and left. And I knew that she now carried that. She was going to have to ask her own forgiveness in that, but I had shed it. I was rid of it. So it's a big deal. Forgiveness is a big deal.
Well, yeah, that it kind of moves into the life review as well. Because when you record, and there's many things that you record, but just go into the life review. I guess you record. Well, you tell us how that experience was like for you. But I'm guessing that you record as well that you know, forgiveness for the things that you think that you've done wrong is forgiveness for ourselves sometimes is so important on this level, isn't it? But take it from
Right,
there, yeah.
right. Well, because, what you're shown, and I had these screens all around me, and it's all playing. It's not just, I used to think, "Oh, well, that'll be fun to see me playing as a kid or my 5th birthday or whatever." I mean, those are on there, and you'll see everything. But what you get to do, as I was talking earlier, is that 360-degree view. If you were at the birthday party and you ended up clunking someone on the head or calling them stupid or whatever, I'm just grabbing something, but you will feel what that child felt like as you did that to them, right? You will feel yourself, but you'll also feel the person who was that you aimed that anger or that at. You will feel what they felt. So the review is not set up as a judgment of you. There isn't judgment. There's learning from what you did, and you will feel the sting of those times when you could have been a better person or could have given your seat to someone on the bus. You have no idea. They may have had a heart attack or a stroke an hour later because they had to stand on the bus, and that you could have helped them avoid that by giving them your seat. Just simple kindnesses really add up, that things that you don't even think about. And then you see them on those screens, and then you see that woman fall down and have a stroke down the sidewalk because you were so thoughtless and didn't even give her your seat. So you'll feel what she went through. It's a big deal
Could
that.
do you think you can actually get to replay it as well? That actually you get to
Mhm.
be in the holodeck of that experience and actually as though it's real
You're
time.
living it, and then you're living it on their side, and you can live it with bystanders in the situation and how they felt about you. And God is always, as we get closer to the end of our interview, but I it's like, God is always there. God doesn't move away from us, but like in that review, you want to take a couple of steps back. You're embarrassed, you're like, oh man, I'm doing really bad, but then those that come up are, I call them the ripples, where you've done something that just was so great, and it was something simple, even just smiling at somebody who really needed it, who was really contemplating ending their life or something. You could have had changed an entire generation of people by that smile that you put out, and you'll feel it, and you'll get the attaboys, and you'll feel those. So there's both the smiles and the sting during that review.
Yeah, as you're saying that, it's a crazy thought, right? But I'm thinking, oh my God, what if, this experience that I'm having and the struggles that I've gone through and everything, and I can feel, think of many of them, right? But what if actually, you know, I'm actually experiencing this because I'm actually reviewing a life review, but actually I'm actually someone else that I don't think I am. and actually that someone else is me having this experience right now, but actually
Like,
I'm not the originator of this experience. It can't be that. It would make a good
you
sci-fi
know what?
movie.
No, it's called dreams, though. You get to do that in dreams. You could stand back and watch, that theater play out and learn from it. It happens all the time.
Yeah, just a crazy thing there. But yeah, just to see it from that perspective sometimes, that actually what I've always said, what if this experience that I'm having is not even what I think it is? And it's just not even what any of us think it is. And actually, yeah, it's something else of something even greater, but kind of what we're talking about. you
Right,
know,
right.
you know?
Well, one of the things, the lessons that I had in spirit school was, how there are times when we just really we want the answers, right? It's like, just give it to me. What is this big spiritual puzzle? And the class that night was called layering and description, and how hard it is when you don't have the capacity in this form, you know, to lay on that much information. I mean, your head would explode, right? That's why a lot of people have their near-death experiences, and they're like, it all made sense, but as soon as I got here, I can't tell you, I can't even pull it out. It was like I it made it was like being over there with a paper cup and an ocean of knowledge, right? And you get to bring back what's in that paper cup, and you get here and it's like, wow. But what I've learned to do is like examine all of those little droplets within that paper cup hold the entire essence of the afterlife. And so if you examine them, and you can do it through your dreams and whatnot.
Yes, and you can. And how do you do that? You just keep a little journal there, and that when you come out of that remembrance of the dream in the morning, rather than say, "Oh, I will write that down," or "I'll remember that," which we never do. You
Which
have,
we never do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but you journal it straight away, do you?
I do. It took me a lot of years of practice, and I keep a journal, and I learned if I just stay laying down. I used to keep it under my pillow or whatever, and if I could scribble something, walking in the mountains or something before I went to the bathroom or whatever I needed to do, and that I could scribble down just a couple of key words, and then I'd get back in bed and try and bring it back before it did that sand thing, because it just crumples into sand. But there are things that you can recall, and the better I got at it, the more help I got from my guide. To My guide would stand at the side of the dream and just do weird things and go, watch, pay attention to that part. And yeah.
Who is your guide right now, would you say?
His name is Click Click. I say that so easily. I'm sure people think I'm weird, but I used to walk a lot, and I had these two walking sticks. And this is when I was searching. I was going, "Who's my guide?" And my sticks would go click, click, click. And long story, but he ended up being Click Click, and he laughs. He's like, "You can call me whatever you want." And I wish I had that. There are some people that are so talented that can see so much, or, oh, this is what your spirit guide looks like, or whatever. I don't have that. It's in dream. I will see him in dreams. And a really good person that I know explained it so well. When she hears something, she says, I hear it in my feelings. And if you can learn to trust that, I hear it in my feelings, then you can start a really good relationship with your guide.
Thank you for that. And one of the things I want to sort of end this on as well is, well, you say this in your book as well. Do not let fear become your story.
Right, right. Don't let fear become your story. Yeah. Work through it. Figure it out. If it's scary, then go, just tip your toe in there. Do it, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. When we go with fear, the fear of, whatever it may be, worried about the future, or just not sure where life's going to take you and everything else. I suppose you just got to flow with it sometimes, haven't you? And yeah, but to understand as well, you've got the free will. But I guess, would you say that life's got our back no matter what?
That life's got our back. it is until it's not time for it to. It's like, I think we all have exit points, and it's like when we've done what we've con contracted or is our job, we're anxious to get back, it's kind of like we've done it, out of here. So, I'm 68, well, I'll be 68 in another month or so, and it's like, "Oh, I'm not done yet," So, these op this opportunity to do this with you, I know it's my purpose, so I know I'm not done, and I'm just gonna keep on doing it until, till it's that last time.
Yeah, I love that. And you are at some of these conferences when they were on, I guess.
Yeah,
But they're on
yeah.
online right now. You're at some of these NDE conferences, aren't you? Online?
Right.
Yeah.
I was a speaker and moderator to the IANS, International, Association of Near-Death Experiences, their conference last August, and, there'll probably be another Zoom one this year. It's not, there's still fingers crossed, but, you know, the way things are going, I'm not too optimistic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, even in times like right now, I keep saying this is the last question, right? But even in times like right now, I mean, with what you've been through, how do you view with, what's going on in the world right now?
um, boy. Yeah, that's the topic going to end up. I had an experience to I was coming out of a McDonald's. I was probably 63 or something like that. Gray hair, little chubby old lady, right? Walking out of the store, and this young man he was on his cell phone, and for whatever reason, he turned his head and looked at me. And not just looked at me, I mean, he looked into my soul and he smiled at me. It was so out of place. And it was like an electricity. And as soon as he kind of the humanness reminded him, hey, he was just looking at this old lady, right? And it was kind of like the smile went away and he went back to the call. But I felt his soul touch my soul. And that experience shows if we could just look, this is what I'd love to end with. If we could just look at each other past our skin, past our gender, past our preferences. We are wonderful, wonderful souls. And someone here on this side, we were talking about the forgiveness thing. I have a feeling I'm probably best friends with her on the other side. She did a service to me. She put me through the dark night of the soul, and I'll probably hug her on the other side. There's a reason for all of it. But if you can look past someone, that bum on the corner, and look at him with spiritual eyes and go, he's doing what he came here to do, and there's a purpose to it, and look past each other's colors and whatnot, the colors of our skin or the styles of our hair, be it purple or green or whatever, that we've chosen to represent us in our space suits for this adventure. Our meat suit, we're wearing a meat suit. It's all it is. When we're done, we take it off and we set it in the corner and we fly free. So be good to it. It protects us on this adventure, but it's not the end all. It's not the end all.
Well, Claudia, your website one last time is?
ClaudiaEdge.com, and you'll find all kinds of interviews and blogs and recommended reading. And I'd love to chat with you. So,
Yeah, I can't wait to get you on for your third book. Don't worry about that because we've just run out
yeah.
of time right now. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Claudia, love you to bits for what you do as well, and just thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Bye, audience. Thanks for hanging here with us.